On today's episode of Andy and Ari on 3, it's a pick show, and man, do we have some incredible games to pick from Friday night in Tempe, TCU, Arizona State, to early Saturday, Notre Dame at Arkansas, USC at Illinois, going to LSU-Ole Miss, and then at night, oh boy, Oregon goes to Penn State in a whiteout, and Alabama visits Georgia. We pick them all today on Andy and Ari on 3, presented by BetMGM. We've teamed up with BetMGM this season. We will be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. When you join BetMGM, you'll get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB, as in college football, CFB, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how that works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code CFB. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code CFB when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. U.S. promotional offers are not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in the U.S. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 in New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona. Call 1-800-327-5050 in Massachusetts. Call 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa, or 1-800-981-0023 in Puerto Rico. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days in partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code CFB and get your $1,500 first bet offer today. Welcome to a Picks edition of Andy and Ari on 3, presented by BetMGM. And Ari, this is the week we've been waiting for. All college football weeks are wonderful. They're special. It's like your children. They're all beautiful. Like everybody's kids are beautiful to them. But this one's beautiful to everybody.
Yeah.
This is incredible.
And I feel like it's really great that you're in my home for this week. You know, Andy popped down from Oklahoma and spent a few days with me and gave me an excuse to watch Sunday Night Football in peace last night. And it was pretty great. So, yeah, I'm really excited to get into these games. There's so many of them, and I think maybe we should just get right into it. Oh, records from last week.
Yeah, we can skip this part.
No,
please.
The shoes on the other foot this week. Last week, I went to bed on Sunday evening with a pit in my stomach, admitting that I was having to admit that I went, was it 1-7 or something last week?
1-8.
1-8.
Yeah,
terrible. Bounced back this week, 6-3. You know, some of the bad beats that I experienced earlier in the year got repaid to me in the form of Jackson Arnold taking a safety to cover. But
I was standing in the end zone on the other side at Memorial Stadium in Norman, and I'm standing there as they're lining up that play, and I'm saying, all he has to do is not take a safety, and I get this game right. All he has to do. And as soon as the ball was snapped, I knew. I was like, this is over.
You know, it is kind of funny the way that the stuff works out, because 6.5 points, which was what the spread of that game was all week, felt like a lot to me. And honestly, it should not have hit. So, I mean, I'll take a victory when I can get it, but Andy's record is still better, 19-19-1 through the first full month of the season, and I'm 16-22-1. I guaranteed at the beginning of the year that I would have a better record by the end of the year. So
you might have a better record by the end of the week.
Yeah, we'll see.
The way things are going.
You know what? This is a tough week. It's a tough week, and we've got a lot of great games. And Andy, I'm excited to get into it.
So we're going to pick these games now. If you want to talk about the new SEC annual opponents, which Chris Lowe, our new colleague at On3, broke on Monday morning. We did a video with Chris on that. So you can find that on the On3 Sports YouTube channel. It is also in the podcast feed. So if you're a podcast listener and you want to listen to that, that is also in your podcast feed as well. But we have games to pick, and we need to get started because, shoot, this weekend is so good that even Friday nights got bangers.
They do.
So let us go to Charlottesville, Virginia, where Florida State will open ACC play against a very plucky Virginia Cavaliers team. They've been very good this year. Now, a lot of that has been against overmatched opponents. The one ACC game they played, they kind of collapsed in the third quarter against NC State. Couldn't handle the duo of CJ Bailey and Hollywood Smothers. And yes, I just wanted to say Hollywood Smothers. But
that's what I'm going to order for lunch today, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Everyone loves the Hollywood Smother. So this game is very interesting because it is a road favorite on a weeknight. And I have always said, be wary of the road favorite on a weeknight. Florida State is a 7-point favorite in Charlottesville on a Friday night. Now, a lot of this is, what do we think about Florida State? What do we know about Florida State? We saw them against Alabama. So we've seen them against good competition playing well. They've then gone and just annihilated overmatched opponents, which, given what we saw from Florida State last year, feels like massive progress.
Yeah, they're scoring points at will.
Everything looks easy for them right now.
Yeah. So, there are a handful of teams, and I think we should have a segment of, is this team really good this week? Because there are like 10 teams that are 3 or 4-0 right now that may be very good, but may not be. We don't know yet. I think Florida State probably is not in that category, because beating Alabama the way that they did means something, regardless of how you feel about Bama.
Well, and Florida State's going to play Miami next week. So, we'll know.
Yeah, and I certainly cannot wait for that game, Andy. But, I think that there's enough circumstantial and direct evidence in this case to think that Florida State's at least a very good football team.
Yeah.
Now, the question that we're going to face a lot this week, Andy, as Big Ten gets into play and you have some weird, time slots and you have weird traveling. This doesn't apply travel-wise to this because this is an ACC game. Are you going to pick the teams, or are you going to pick the spot? And that's the hardest part, because it is a very challenging spot. And you would think, too, with Florida State looking ahead, maybe, to what.
Yeah, Miami's off this week. Florida State has to play a conference game, so they're in different situations. But I also think Florida State has not really been challenged, and I think that they'll probably get up for the idea of a challenge here. And Virginia should challenge. This is not going to be easy. I don't think they go in there and just roll Virginia, but I do think they're capable of beating Virginia comfortably.
Yeah. So I think that there are multiple games this week where you're just like, oh, well, I really feel good about the team. I feel good about their ability, but this is just a really bad spot. And maybe we're going to get to that when we get to USC, Illinois, for instance. That's not an easy place to travel to if you're USC.
Well,
but I don't know that I feel that way. I know that we always think about the weeknight grab ass that can occur in these games. I am pretty confident that Florida State is probably at least a touchdown better than Virginia.
Well, the thing is, Tommy Castellanos has looked great. Everything we thought about him was wrong. He's been remarkably consistent. He's been really good for this Gus Malzahn offense. He looks like a great fit in it. They have playmakers on Florida State's team. But I will say Chandler Morris, another blast from the past name, has been great at Virginia. And Chandler Morris, remember, signed with Oklahoma. Then he was at TCU. Then he was at North Texas. He's been all over the place.
Yeah. So are you thinking about getting froggy here or what?
I have a hard time doing that. I think Florida State's been so consistent this year, which, if you'd told me 2 months ago that we'd be saying Florida State was one of the most consistent teams in America over the first month of the season, you're like, really?
Yeah. And I think I do find that Mike Norvell will continue to capture the emotion that they're playing with. It's 66-10 against Kent State. That doesn't really mean much. East Texas A&M, which I didn't know was a school until 2 weeks ago, 77-3. I don't know how much stock you put into that, but watching them just bowl over people a year removed from when every single game and every single possession looked difficult, it's just such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, everything looked so hard for them last year, but and this is you look at their leading receivers, Deuce Robinson, who was a guy you loved as a recruit, and he goes to USC, and now he is showing up in the way that you wanted him to. 8 catches for 199 yards, averaging almost 25 yards a catch.
Yeah.
And the thing is, they've really been able to spread the ball around. They've got, I don't know. I just feel like this is exactly what Mike Norvell dreams of doing. And it makes it really hard to explain last year. For example, I was at Oklahoma this past week and watching Marvin Jones Jr. play great for the Sooners.
Mm-hmm.
Marvin Jones Jr. transferred from Georgia to Florida State before last season, and he wasn't very good at Florida State. Nothing about last season at Florida State makes sense. And, we said all offseason, we don't think Mike Norvell forgot how to coach, But we said that in the context of we think they will be better this year, but not great.
Yeah.
We're about to find out if they can be great. And I'm pretty excited to see that.
Andy, I do think that I'm going to get froggy here.
Chandler Morris. Those Chandler Morris stats.
I think Florida State's going to win. I think it's going to be one of those weeknight games that,
You just said there was going to be no weeknight grab ass. Why is there now going to be weeknight grab ass?
I'm changing my mind.
Okay.
I think that Virginia has been a average to slightly above average team so far this year. Florida State's looking ahead. They're on the road. It's Friday night. I think all those things.
So you're saying the Chardonnay is going to be flowing in Charlottesville?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that Florida State will win, but this line does seem
sneaky,
but also too, you were looking at Bill Connolly's ratings. I'm looking at Tyler Shoemaker's ratings, and I'm seeing that this could be in some books or some schools of thought a 3.5 point spread.
The power rankings, the various power rankings do seem to like Virginia a lot.
Yeah,
which is interesting to me.
And that seems to happen too when a team has, scored fairly well this year. Like Virginia has, put the ball in the air pretty effectively, and even in their single loss, they lost
offensively
they scored 31 points, and NC State I think is a pretty good football team. So, I think that Florida State will win. I do, but I'm going to take the 7 points and hope for the best there.
Okay, so you are feeling froggy, and I appreciate that, Ari. I'm glad because I want to be on the other side of you on some of these things so that I can be right and you can be wrong.
Yeah, we haven't talked about this. I don't know what it's going to look out or like how it's going to pan out on this episode. Is there a lot of tricky games here? And I don't
know if we're going to be how we're going to fall on these things because, again, we don't talk about these things before we do them. So I don't know if Ari and I agree on any of these. But I am going to go ahead and take Florida State to cover the 7 here. Because they've been so consistent so far, and it's looked so smooth. And, I watched the whole Virginia NC State game, and obviously CJ Bailey's very good. And I thought Chandler Morris played really well against that defense, but that defense is not Florida State's defense.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the problem is it's going to be a little bit harder for Virginia to score here. And I don't know how well they can stop Florida State. So yeah. I will take Florida State to cover.
The most difficult things about betting in these types of shows, Andy, is that on one hand, you have what your brain thinks and what your gut thinks, which is Florida State looks like a wagon this year. They're beating the crap out of everybody. They got Miami. We're making plans about going to the game in a few weeks. And it's like you don't, from an intellectual standpoint, really put together, well, why would this game be closer than a touchdown? But then when you start using advanced stats and tools and power ratings and you start to picture the spot, like that's kind of why I flipped there at the end. Like I know that picking
and also you don't always have it, and this is one of those traditionally tricky situations when a team plays a weeknight game, they are the focus of the entire nation. Like this game will be the only one college football fans are watching at that time. So I think people tend to get up for that. And especially when you're the home team. And so if you're the road team who's expected to go into the situation and win, it is more difficult for you to do that. So I get why there would be some reluctance to take Florida State.
And also try to keep in mind too, how many times are you watching a game on Saturday and you're just like, how is this happening? It happens 10 times a weekend.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to pick this to be a
how's this happening game.
Yeah. And we'll see. And then my hope, because we have really wonderful plans to see some palm trees in Tallahassee. There's palm trees, right?
There are palm trees in Tallahassee. Yes.
Hope that those plans don't, get ruined over the weekend. But for the time being, it seems like a fun time. I think that 7 points with the power ratings, I'll take the 3.5 points to 4 points of value and hope for the best there.
So let us stay on Friday night. And we're going to go a few miles away from your hometown. You grew up in Scottsdale, Arizona. So we're going to be a few miles south down Scottsdale Road in Tempe, Arizona. And a stadium built into the side of a mountain, Sun Devil Stadium, TCU at Arizona State. The Sun Devils are a 2.5 point favorite in this game. Arizona State won a walk-off thriller against Baylor, where I thought both defenses played better than I thought they would.
Yeah.
And so I thought Sawyer Robertson and Sam Levitt were going to go crazy in that game. I think we didn't give Arizona State's defense enough credit. We'd seen Baylor get wrecked by Auburn. Baylor's defense get wrecked by Auburn. But Baylor's defense looked considerably better against Arizona State. So I think this could be another one in the 20s, Ari, where the game is played in the 20s and it's tight and it's sort of back and forth, nip and tuck.
You know, one of the things that is difficult about being next to you when we're recording a show is that your notes are in front of me and I'm like instinctually
reading over my shoulder.
Yeah, like I feel like I'm cheating on a high school paper right now.
I mean, we're going to publish them, so it's okay.
No, I know, but we're not supposed to know beforehand where you're going.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like kind of disappointed because I actually believe, Andy, that TCU might be like really, really good this year.
I think there's a good chance.
And unfortunately, I'm probably going to land on the same side of you as this one because like I am a Josh Hoover believer.
Oh, he's been really good.
And I know there's not much to take about, systematically
five
dominating
TDs
North Carolina,
against SMU.
but like he showed up and like SMU was supposed to be a really good football team and TCU, it was a close game on the scoreboard, but I thought TCU, looked like the better team for much of that game and ended up winning. So, I know that every single year the Big 12 has a new treat. It has a new surprise. Arizona State, I think, is a very good team, and the win that they had against Baylor was certainly impressive, especially considering the fact that it was on the road. They get to return home now, but this is a crazy conference.
And it seems like
it's a crazy conference.
It seems like TCU, there are people trying to tell us about TCU going into the season. Hey, these guys could be very good. Do not discount this. Sonny Dykes has been building up to this, and I think the people who told us that were right. And this team is going to compete for the conference title, is going to be in the race for a while, but you got to win games like this.
And I just like love too how trendy like coaches are on a year-to-year basis. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, Sonny Dykes was the man, and it's like he didn't forget how to assemble a good football team or to be a good coach.
Right. It's just that team that won the national title game had a lot of really good older players, and they went to the NFL.
Shout out,
and they had to replace
them. But yeah, like the scales swing a lot in this conference. It's not like the Big Ten and the SEC where it's the same four teams, and maybe that'll change in the SEC this year too. But like, I just feel like TCU might be the team that we aren't talking about enough in the Big 12 race. I know that Texas Tech is sexy and exciting right now after what they did to Utah on Saturday, but let's not lose track of Josh Hoover and all the stories that are going to be, printed on On3 and The Athletic and ESPN later on that said Josh Hoover had a chance to leave and didn't type of stuff. I can just almost feel like I can see the future in this scenario. And I really, really like TCU in this spot.
All right. I agree with Ari. I also will take TCU because we're getting 2.5 points here. So TCU to cover at Arizona State. Now we move to Saturday. And Ari, the last game I watched this past Saturday was Sunday where I was when it ended, was Michigan State at USC. That game started at 8 p.m. Pacific time and ended, I want to say, close to midnight Pacific time, because it was close to 2 a.m. Central time where I was when it ended. And now they have a game that will start at 11 a.m. Central time. So this is a body clock game. And I know people say, oh, that's a bunch of crap. None of that matters. It does tend to make things weird sometimes. Not necessarily how late USC's game ended, but I remember back in the day that the Pac-12 used to have a thing where, if you played on the road at night on Saturday, they were saying you needed to not have an early start the next week. And people actually complained about that sort of thing. So this is a tough spot. Plus you got the weirdness of Illinois.
Did you hear it's a wind tunnel there?
From you. Yeah. But the weirdness of Illinois that just went to Bloomington, got their doors blown off. So they've got to come back and prove, hey, we're not as bad as we looked against Indiana. We're still a good team. This is a strange game. USC is favored by 6.5 points on the road. I don't know what's going to happen here. Yeah. I really don't.
So instead of me looking at your notes, how about I just look at mine?
Yeah, look at your notes.
USC has improved to 4-0, and they've done so in relative obscurity because people are afraid of getting hurt again. And me being one of them. And I wonder if they are just very good. This is a team that falls squarely in the are they actually good category. I don't know if you've been paying attention to this, guys, but USC ranks number 3 in total offense, and I know that's a made-up stat that doesn't matter. It's all about
not
scoring,
made up.
but
It's a counting stat, which is not that
you know what?
But they're also, I think they're also good in the non-counting stats as well. So
yeah, and Jaden Mayava's looking really good, and Lincoln Riley, although taking a lot of flack from the media, and rightfully so.
Like yards per play, which is not a counting stat, but is a dividing stat, but is a fairly useful one. You know where USC ranks in the country?
Number one.
9.2 yards per play. So very explosive offense.
Yeah, and maybe we should have thought more about, hey, they didn't go get a quarterback this offseason. I remember when there were certain quarterbacks hitting the portals, USC is the total place for, and USC didn't even I don't think was even in the mix. Remember when Nico Iamaleava entered the portal? Everybody thought
USC didn't even sniff him. They didn't blink. Yeah,
and I think that maybe we should lean back to the mean somewhere and start to consider that
Lincoln Riley might know what he's doing with the quarterback.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm not fully back in on USC. I think that, there were some games that they had some quarters that they would like to have back, but I do think that maybe USC is undervalued in Illinois. Obviously, with what we saw on Saturday night was a little overvalued.
I think so. And the thing is, what worries me for Illinois in this game is Indiana made Illinois look slow defensively. It looked like they couldn't keep up with Indiana's playmakers.
It's not often I'm watching a college football game and I start feeling bad for a team. I started feeling bad for Illinois on Saturday.
Very bad. So here's the thing. USC has Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane. Mekhi Lemon, 24 catches already this year. So he's the workhorse of the offense, but he still averages 18 yards a catch, even though he's caught 24 balls.
Yeah.
And then you got Jacoby Lane, who's averaging 26.6 yards a catch.
Yeah.
These guys are a big play waiting to happen. And I think
that feels right, doesn't it?
That's got to scare you. Yeah. It feels like what we thought would happen all along with Lincoln Riley at USC, but should scare the hell out of you if you're Illinois and you struggled to keep up with Indiana's players, which Indiana's players are really good. We're not going to pretend that they're not, or that this suddenly means that Illinois stinks. I don't think it means Illinois stinks, but I am concerned about Illinois trying to guard these particular receivers who seem to be excellent at creating big explosive plays.
Yeah, and I'm ready to get hurt again, Andy. I'm gonna lay the points on the road, 6.5. I think it's trending towards maybe even being 7 in some places. I'll lay the touchdown and hope that they're not tired.
And that's the weird thing is
hopefully
the
it's
body
not
clock.
windy.
Because this feels like one of those spots from last year where USC went east and it was like, what are you doing? How is this happening? Maryland was one of those. Minnesota was one of those. And I don't think that has to do with the travel. I think that just was those particular games, the circumstances of those games, and USC was not exactly a complete team last year. But I really don't think it has to do with the travel.
Yeah. Didn't somebody write a stat somewhere that USC is one in?
We got a question about it, and it was one of those things where it was games in Eastern and Central time, but really the Maryland and Minnesota games were the only weird ones. The other ones where they happen to be playing excellent teams, usually in postseason games.
Yeah, in those time zones,
or playing Notre Dame.
Yeah.
So that, I think that was a little bit misleading.
Well, our beloved River was kind enough to go out and look what the wind speed was projected to be on Saturday, and 4 miles an hour. That's not fast.
Not a wind tunnel, Ari.
No, see, that's what you don't.
Will the sun be shining in Champaign?
No, there's no sun in Champaign, Illinois. But the one thing that I will say is that 4 miles an hour might not seem intimidating, but once it goes through the tunnel, it turns into 25 mile an hour winds. So I don't know.
It doesn't seem to bother Luke Altmaier, so I really don't think it's going to bother Jaden Mayava either.
Yeah, the one thing too, and to go back to another counting stat, they are 53rd, I believe, in total defense. USC is, and I think that we have removed ourselves, and Danton Lynn has done a great job in rebuilding that whole thing over there.
Well, but if you go back to the Michigan State game, Michigan State did get within a touchdown right at the end of the third quarter. That was actually because USC turned the ball over and set Michigan State up in a good spot. But
I think Illinois is going to score. So,
right.
You want USC's really effective, explosive offense to put up a ton of points here. Like I could see a 35,
but that's
24
what USC
game.
did against Michigan State. Like Michigan State got within a touchdown, and then USC very quickly extended the lead.
Yeah. So I'm going to start putting my faith back into the USC offense. I think as they have moved to 4-0 behind the scenes, I've taken notice. I've been quiet about it. Don't want to get hurt again, but I think I'm ready to get hurt again, laying the points.
Oh, do we need to come up with another USC bet? I mean, that worked out really well for me last time. It's a great steak dinner.
Yeah, but I don't want to bet on it. Like that's the problem. I'm not convinced. I mean, at some point you're going to get me to run 3 miles around this lake over here. But
I don't think this is it because I think we're on the same side of this. I think USC is going to cover this 7 points as well. I just think they're too explosive, and I'm worried about Illinois' defense against USC's receivers. I just what I saw against Indiana, it does not look like this is a good matchup for Illinois. Now, granted, it could be completely weird because it is an 11 a.m. local game with a West Coast team coming east, but I don't know. What we've seen from USC so far suggests to me that they're going to score a bunch of points here. So I will take USC to cover. Now, before we get to our next game will be played on an SEC campus. It is Notre Dame at Arkansas. I'm going to tell you about Academy Sports and Outdoors. Huddle up, football fans. Tailgate season is here. And nobody gets SEC fans ready for game day like Academy Sports and Outdoors. Swing by your local Academy store or shop online at academy.com to find grills, jerseys, and more. Fun can't lose, and neither can you with tailgate gear from Academy. Academy Sports and Outdoors is the official sporting goods and outdoor retailer of the SEC, and they will be ready to party at Arkansas. They're coming off a couple losses, Ari. They lost to Ole Miss. They lost a heartbreaker at Memphis. Late fumble sets up Memphis to win the game. Now Notre Dame comes. This is going to be an interesting game both ways because we are going to learn a lot about Notre Dame's defense here, I think. We watched the Texas A&M game, got very concerned about Notre Dame's defense, and I said last week, I think Notre Dame's defense is going to be fine. I think we're going to find out that Texas A&M's offense is very good. Now, Arkansas's offense is also pretty good. Their defense, not so much. I'm not as worried about Notre Dame scoring here. Notre Dame is going to score. But I just want to know how much is Arkansas going to score? How much is Taylor Green going to do against this Notre Dame defense? Because they were scoring just fine against Ole Miss and scoring just fine against Memphis.
Yeah, well, I think that we both agree that the over is the play here. I believe that it opened at 62.5 and has now moved to 64.5.
Were you looking at my notes?
No,
because I don't even usually pick the total, and in this one I did pick the total, and we both picked the total.
We both picked the total. I think. See.
Yeah. All right, but this is a bonus pick. I don't know if we count this in the stats river, but Ari and I both have it. This feels like the easiest total of the year so far.
Yeah.
This feels like the most obvious over, and it's 64.5. It's a big number, but it feels like the most obvious over we've seen all year.
Yeah. Which means it's probably going to finish 31-20.
Exactly.
But like, I think that Notre Dame is going to win this football game. I also think that 5.5 points is a lot of points in this situation, because Notre Dame is also in a little bit of a desperate situation. Like it is it's trying to get a win.
The whole year's desperation. Marcus Freeman said to them, and I thought it was interesting. He said to the team before the Purdue game, he's like, "Don't forget you're 0-2. Like, we're not going to pretend you didn't lose 2 games. Your backs are against the wall."
Yeah, that's right. And I think that if you do trust anybody to get them out of the hole, it's Marcus Freeman, because they literally just did it last year. But I think that this idea that they're just going to run through the rest of their schedule and never have to sweat now is completely misnomer.
False. Yeah.
It's not true. And like Arkansas, you're hearing a lot of, I don't know about on you, but I see on Twitter a lot of the Sam Pittman is officially finished, and will Bobby Petrino finish out the year?
I don't look at these last 2 results as definitive proof that Sam Pittman's a bad coach.
Like Arkansas stinks.
Like, they were right in it with Ole Miss and Memphis. So it's both good. Like, Ole Miss and Memphis could both be playoff teams this year if things shake out the right way.
So I am actually not just going to step my foot into the Notre Dame goes coast to coast, wire to wire for the rest of the year and wins all their games easily the way that they did last year. I think that this is going to be a tough game. And until I see something from Notre Dame's defense that proves that they are very good, or not bad, I should say. And I think that A&M's offense is really, really good. So I think that part of the reason why they gave up 41 points is because A&M is going to score more than 30 on just about everybody they play this year. But I do think that there is a opening there for Arkansas and Taylor Green, who has been very good offensively this year, to score some points. And I think this might be a very close, exciting, high-scoring football game where the final score is, 5.5 or less. So I'm going to take the points.
So you ready for a stat about the Arkansas defense?
Sure. Is it bad?
They gave up the same amount of yards per play against Ole Miss and Memphis. 6.8 yards per play. It was bad. Bad.
Oh, wow. That stat is really, really close because it's not 6.8. It's 6.79. So it's super precise.
Exactly. So they played 70 plays against Ole Miss and gave up 475 yards. They played 72 plays against Memphis and gave up 489. The splits were different because Memphis ran for a lot more than Ole Miss did. But if you're Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price,
and if you're looking
at your chops in this
rushing
game
in the last game, Andy, you're looking at that. And
Notre Dame is not the team you want to see in that situation. No. Yeah.
And I do kind of, I am a little bit concerned maybe about the total if Notre Dame, controls the ball on the ground and is, rushing for chunks of 5 and 6, they might not.
I don't know. But the problem is that it might be like Michigan against Nebraska, where they're not rushing for chunks of 5 or 6, they're rushing for chunks of 50 and 60.
Yeah, so it happens like on the first play of a drive at their own 20-yard line. Yeah, if that happens, then we're good. As long as it's not long, sustained 14-play drives where the ball's being rushed, 10 out of the 14 plays, I think we'll be fine. I am not fading Notre Dame as much as I am confident in Arkansas's offense. I think that they deserve that through the first month of the season, and I think it's going to be a really good game, Andy.
Yeah, the Arkansas offense has been one of the more pleasant surprises this season. It sucks that it didn't manifest itself in a win in either of the last 2 games, and I feel bad for them on that front. But Taylor Green, so far, completing 64% of his passes, 1,191 yards. He's averaging 9.5 yards per attempt. He's got 12 TDs and 4 interceptions. So he's been outstanding this year so far. And of course, it's a great name show. I've already mentioned Hollywood Smothers a couple times.
Yeah.
We're about to mention Ephesians Prysock.
Yeah.
But now we got to talk about Omega Blake, who is Arkansas's leading receiver, 24 catches on the season and 3 TDs. Omega Blake is a great name.
Yeah. We had a very simple, normal name. I don't know if you were going to go off the deep end at any point when you guys were thinking about what you were going to name your kids.
No, they
Maggie
were
and
always,
Will are pretty right down the middle there.
Yeah, we were pretty boring. But Omega, that's an awesome name.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So what side are you?
Oh, I'm going Notre Dame to cover. I think Notre Dame is going to run up a lot of points in this game. I think they're going to give up some, but I am curious about the Notre Dame defense. Are we going to come out of this game saying Notre Dame will have to outscore every good team they play in a shootout, or will the defense be able to keep this score to something manageable and then Notre Dame just rolls offensively?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's necessarily the second thing, but I don't think it's the first thing either. I think it's something in between where Arkansas puts up a respectable number of points, but Notre Dame ends up pulling away there at the end.
Yeah, I can see it happening.
So I will take.
You're going to be wrong, but I can see it.
Yeah,
happening.
I'll take Notre Dame to cover the 5.5. Ari and I both believe this game is going over 64.5.
Smash the under.
Yeah, fade us, please. We're idiots.
The good news about you and I going on opposite ends of games too is just when people see the graphic, because they put our names on the same graphic, people these guys are idiots. It's well, one of us is going to be right.
Well, it's so funny because last week I didn't have anybody say, "Oh, rip to your picks this week," and my picks were terrible.
Yeah.
The week before I had multiple people saying your picks are awful. You're going to have a terrible week, and I went 6-3.
Yeah.
And I'm not the kind of person who would go find those tweets and be like, "Oh, how'd you do this weekend? How'd it go for you?"
Yeah.
Because those people lost a lot of money that weekend if they were actually betting their own money on this stuff.
Yeah. I always just say, if you think I'm an idiot and rip my picks up, then listen, this is a perfect tool for you to fade. These are my picks. And if you don't like them, then you can do what you want with them.
Yeah, exactly. Let us move on to a stadium near an active volcano. Ohio State at Washington. The stadium that Ari's never seen a game in, but he's scared to go because, again, as I mentioned, there's an active volcano nearby. Mount Rainier is an active volcano. We asked Washington coach,
could erupt at any moment.
We asked Washington coach Jed Fish if he's worried about it. He said he's never given it a second's thought. So,
have you seen Family Guy? Like, are you familiar with it? Like when somebody tries to sell Peter Griffin volcano insurance?
Quite familiar with Family Guy.
Okay, so you know the volcano insurance clip. Do they actually have volcano insurance for homeowners in Seattle?
Should we text Jed Fish right now?
Well, I'm just curious. Like, if you just buy a regular single family home.
Hold on, I'm going to text him.
Yeah, just text Jed Fish and say,
do you have volcano insurance? Okay.
I actually thought you were going to, because I think you should.
I am not going to text Jed Fish. We've already asked Jed Fish the volcano question once. We know his stance on it.
Jed Fish wasn't amused by the volcano question. It really bothered me. But it would be kind of funny if you texted him on Thursday of the Ohio State game week. Hey, do you have volcano insurance?
If I text him now and said, do you have Jeremiah Smith insurance? Do you think that would?
So the volcano could just be Ohio State. Okay, that's the thing. I don't know. So here's the
Ohio State. I'm doing better at this. I've gotten requests, multiple requests via email. Thank you, viewers and listeners, for this. For the folks that are listening on podcast, I have to announce the spread of every game.
Please, yes.
So Ohio State at Washington. Ohio State is an 8.5-point favorite on the road. The total on this game is 52.5. Okay, continue.
I think that this spread is a little bit lower than we would have. If we were making a spread on this, we might have been somewhere in the 10 to 14 range, just based on, what we know about Ohio State or what we think we know about Ohio State. I am somewhat intrigued by whether or not our notions of Ohio State being the clear number one team in the country are skewed a little bit by the Texas win that may not age well. So far, Texas has not lost again since, but that UTEP game may as well have been a loss. I think that this is going to be an interesting matchup because Washington is a very playable team because they score a lot. They've scored at least 38 points in all three of their games. They just put up 59 points, erupted for 28 points in the fourth quarter against Washington State this past weekend. Shout out to Tyler Shoemaker, who handed out minus 20.5 Washington this past week. That was a pretty awesome fourth quarter for everyone. I do think, though, that it's going to be really, really hard to talk me off of Ohio State being 10 points better. Now, Andy, they have Damon Williams, who... And
I think that's the question here, because Damon Williams Jr. is the X factor, and we've seen Arch Manning not play well against this Ohio State defense, and it may just be because Ohio State is really good on defense. And obviously, we know how good Caleb Downs is. We know how highly recruited their players are. But I am fascinated to see this because we've only seen Damon Williams Jr. against an elite level defense once, and that was in the Oregon game last year. That was his first collegiate start, and he played really well.
Yeah. That was the game that Jed Fish referenced to of we found something.
Yeah, 17 of 20, 210 yards, I think, and a touchdown. That's against a team that is much better than your team. And obviously, the defense couldn't hold up, and they ended up losing that game by quite a bit of points. I think it was 3 touchdowns. But Damon Williams was not phased at all by the level of competition in that game, which I think makes this more interesting. And also, we're going to find out, is Washington's defense better? This is where we talk about Takario Davis and Ephesians Prysock, the two corners who they're both 6'4". Is Jeremiah Smith ever going to play a game where the two starting corners on the other team are taller than him? I think this might be the only one in his life.
Maybe not even in the NFL. You don't have to be really tall to be a great corner.
That doesn't mean they're going to be able to check him. It just means they're tall.
They're just tall,
But they are both pretty good.
Damon Williams, 298 yards passing against Washington State, 16 of 19 throwing, very efficient game, 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
And then also they ran them 13 different times.
The thing
yards
is, if you're going to beat a team like Ohio State, especially this version of Ohio State, your quarterback has to be special.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to find out. Maybe he is.
Yeah, and we talked about the ebbs and flows of hyped up coaches, I do find it quite fascinating that Jed Fish kind of fell back into the behind the scenes a little bit last year because this team was down. But year 2 at Arizona was a huge jump for them.
Yeah.
This is year 2 for Washington, and he has Jonah Coleman, who's one of the best running backs in the country as well. So offensively, Washington has scored points, and if you're going to give a team that scores as much as Washington does, 8.5 points, it seems like a lot. My question to you, and is always the number one question whenever you're playing Ohio State, is if Ohio State's defense makes things look harder across the board, and I anticipate that they will. So, I am a Big Ten Ohio State homer, right? It's hard for me to pick
seen
against
Julian saying against a defense that we think is good. I don't think Texas has done anything this season to disabuse us of the notion that they have a very good defense. So I think we've seen Julian saying against a good defense. Now, he didn't play that great. Ohio State didn't gain that many yards in that game. So we don't really know how good their offense is yet, but we know it was good enough, and it played a mistake-free game in a very high leverage situation, which I think is also important, because if they get in a situation where, let's say Washington's defense is a little better than we thought, as long as they avoid massive mistakes, they're probably still okay. So
and this game's at 2:30. I know Washington's a very tough place to play, but it's not a night game. I know the travel is probably a pain in the ass to go from Columbus to Seattle and play.
It's one large city to another. I think it's probably pretty easy.
They're
just getting on a charter plane and going.
So that's the thing I've always wanted to talk about. Is like, once you're on the plane, whether the flight is 2.5 hours or 3.5 hours, that's not really that big of a difference, right?
This one's probably about 4, but it's fine.
Yeah, but is there a big difference between being on the plane for 2.5 hours and 4 hours?
I don't think so, especially if you're traveling at a fairly opportune time. Now, if you're landing at 4 a.m, it's probably not great.
And I'm sure that the accommodations in Seattle are quite plentiful. It's not like Mississippi State where there's only casinos around.
How dare he? How dare Kenny Dillingham? There's some lovely hotels in Starkville and in the Golden Triangle region. But no, yes, Seattle.
Is that what it's called?
Yes, the Golden Triangle, West Point, Starkville, and Columbus.
Never heard of that in my life.
But yes, Seattle has a lot going on. Really good sushi places. I don't think they're going out for sushi the night before the game. That's probably a little risky. But
what is the riskiest food a football team can be catered with on a Friday night?
It's got to be crustaceans. It's got to be shrimp,
because like if you get wrong,
you get bad shrimp.
You're that.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That's.
I mean, everybody's vomiting, and that's just not great. That's not
going to go Taco Bell, but like, I saw somebody tweet once that.
Imagine, we've seen the plays where the center has been working really hard, and he's just, his stomach's not with him, and he vomits on the ball,
and then just snaps it.
Like, we could see that. Maybe we see that with a whole team if they get bad shrimp.
Yeah. Somebody once tweeted that if your stomach can't handle Taco Bell, then you shouldn't reproduce, or you're not strong enough for the survival of the fittest. And I'm into that. But
Taco Bell Darwinism.
Back to the game though, okay. Andy, I do. Yeah. I mean, I think that Ohio State's defense is really, really good.
And I think that's the difference here. I think that the only way this works for Washington is if Damon Williams is special. And we'll see. It'd be fun if he is. I just don't know if that's the case.
Yeah.
I will take Ohio State to cover the 8.5 in this.
I'm going to take Ohio State to cover this too. Just to point out, though, Washington, if they play and cover the spread, because if Washington loses this game by 5 or 7 or whatever, anything less than 8, that I think is a very nice game for them.
Mm-hmm.
Maryland, Rutgers, Michigan, Illinois, Wisconsin, Purdue, UCLA, all before Oregon. So if they show that they can play one possession football with Ohio State at home, I think that is you might be running into a quality win scenario there, depending on how things go with Michigan, but that might be a playoff route. So anyway, Washington has a chance to prove itself. I think we've seen Jed Fish turn a program around before, a much harder program to turn around, I might add. Washington has some really exciting, good players. Takario Davis is on their team now. If you lost track of that, his wingspan, he could
we just talked about how tall he is, and Ephesians Prysock,
but like his wingspan.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He is the rangiest of rangy corners.
Is Ephesians biblical? Is that what
it is?
Okay.
Yes.
I thought so.
It is a book of the Bible. Yes.
Yeah.
So if you want to go to this game, Ari, you can get in here and get some really good seats at Husky Stadium. Use Gametime. Download the Gametime app. Redeem the code STAPLES. Get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, of course. There are some great seats. Some great seats in the $200 range, in the high $100 range. There are some really good views. And obviously, it's a beautiful view of Lake Washington. It's a beautiful place to go watch a game. Don't worry about Ari. Don't be scared of the active volcano. It'll be just fine. Ari's just trying to scare you. Go to that Washington-Ohio State game. Or if you want, go to Alabama-Georgia this week. That's going to cost you a little more. That's going to run you in the 400s, in the 500s, in the 600s if you want to get some really good seats at Sanford Stadium this weekend. But there are tickets to all of these great games on Gametime. Redeem the code STAPLES for $20 off your first purchase. And remember, the price you see is the price you pay. There are no tacked on fees there at the end. That number's the number. So you want to get a game, you want to go see a game in person? Do you want to brave the active volcano and watch the Buckeyes play the Huskies? Go to Gametime. Use that code STAPLES. $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Ari, let us head back to the SEC. Very interesting spread in this LSU at Ole Miss game. Ole Miss is favored by 1.5, and this is one of those classic, the rankings, the polls, and the line makers disagree. Because LSU is ranked considerably higher than Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
But the line makers favoring Ole Miss in this game doesn't feel that weird that they're doing that, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Ole Miss is confusing.
They are.
They're a confusing team.
Defense showed up last week for what felt like the first time because it wasn't particularly good against Arkansas. I didn't think it was even that great against Kentucky because I think Kentucky's offense is probably going to wind up not being that good. And they look pretty functional against Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And the Arkansas offense obviously was playing very well against them. But against Tulane, which had been very efficient offensively throughout the year, they shut them down.
Yeah. I love that Lane Kiffin was setting up his team for a sideline dunk. I don't know if you saw the video.
Well, they do. The person who scores the touchdown gets to dunk the basketball. But Lane was actually alley-ooping to a player.
Yeah, and they stuffed it. I think that I was very encouraged by what I saw in their 45-10 win against Tulane on Saturday, because if their defense was as bad as we thought it may be, Tulane would have scored. Mm-hmm. They would have scored on them. I'm not sure they would have won, but they would have scored more than 10 points. I mean, they took a team that we thought was at least in the pole position to make the college football playoff and stuffed them in the locker. And I will admit that I think, here's my conspiracy theory. I think that the reason why Brian Kelly had his post-game meltdown 2 weeks ago after the Florida game isn't because of the timing of the question.
It's because he's really worried about it.
I think he's actually frustrated by it. He didn't want to hear about it right away.
Yeah.
But like, you don't think that walking off the field, even if he hadn't watched film yet, that he saw his offense struggle for 4 quarters?
Yeah.
You don't think that he's certainly aware of that. And I think that is a major concern. I think that Ole Miss's offense is very good. And I know that their quarterback situation has been interesting. Trinidad Chambliss has been lights out in relief of Austin Simmons. Andy, do you know who's playing this weekend? Do we know?
We don't. And my thing on this is if Austin Simmons is the least bit slowed by the ankle still, you start Trinidad.
Fine.
Yeah, start Trinidad. Don't worry about it. This is a good problem to have. I think Josh Pate was saying this the other day. He said it's not a controversy. It's a good problem. And it is. Like, you have 2 quarterbacks who can win you games. That is not a controversy. That is not an issue. That is not a problem. And basically, it allows Austin Simmons time to truly heal, because we saw him have to come into the Arkansas game when Chambliss got his hand hurt. And Simmons did not look like he needed to be playing in a football game at that point. So perhaps he's better now, but if you have any doubt, just start Trinidad. And your offense should continue to move very well. And really now, I think the question is, what is LSU's offense going to look like? Because the Clemson game, I kind of think we can throw that out now.
Yeah.
Now, Florida's defense played really well against them. That was the game they had Caleb Banks. It'll be the only game they had Caleb Banks all season, I think. So that's a pretty salty defense that's going to be better than most defenses you're going to play. They only scored 13 points against that defense because, remember, 7 of LSU's points were on a pick 6. So I do think how LSU's offense has evolved and what they do is a critical piece of this game. But I also think LSU's defense is significantly better than any of the defenses that Ole Miss has seen so far.
Right. And I'm going right now to look this up, but I wonder what the rushing offense for LSU is this year in the rankings nationally. I'm going to tell you here in 1 second. LSU ranks 112th nationally
in rushing yards. Let's do yards per carry.
This is national leaders of rushing offense.
Go to yards per carry. I want to see yards per carry.
Yards per carry.
Average right there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Click average. Click that. Thank you. Now let's see where they are for that one.
109.
109. So not good.
Anyway, and they had that big run against Florida.
Yeah, he took the 51-yard run away. So this is not good.
No, but like that to me is the thing.
And this is what I worried about with LSU coming into the season, because if you go back to last year, the games where they really struggled were the ones that they kind of abandoned the run and just let Garrett Nussmeier keep chucking the ball. That's much easier for teams that have good pass rushes to defend, because you just send the people after Garrett Nussmeier, you heat him up, and you hope he makes a mistake.
Yep. So anyway, I think this is all, you can kind of tell where this is going, at least from my standpoint. I think Ole Miss is not, they're going to win the game and they're going to cover this, I think. And I also think too, that this is going to be yet another instance of why the SEC is confusing, you know, because 3 weeks ago, LSU was in some people's minds the number one team in the country. And now that we have more context on the Clemson game and all those things, that, you know, hey, it doesn't look as good. So they have a chance to continue to win games and keep proving people wrong. But until then, I'm going to side with LSU. I think this is one of my favorite plays of the week, actually.
Yeah, so this is, I think I said a 1.5 point spread. Ole Miss is actually a 2.5 point favorite now. It's moving toward the Rebels even more, which I think is interesting. And we saw a little bit of that happen in the Indiana-Illinois game last week too, where it opened, I think, Indiana as a 4-point favorite. By the time the game started, Indiana was a 7-point favorite. And people knew in that case. We'll see if they're right in this case. But it is very intriguing because, you know, I think people get caught up in the rankings and people get caught up in the polls. And we don't know yet, because I think a lot of LSU's ranking is based on where Clemson was ranked when they played, and it looks like Clemson's not very good.
I also like the under here, under 55.5.
Yeah, I think both defenses probably assert themselves in this game. I think this will be a good example of how good LSU's defense really is. I mean, look, it looked great against Clemson. I don't know how much that means. 5 interceptions against Florida. I don't care. 5 interceptions is 5 interceptions.
Yeah.
Like, that is good no matter who you're playing.
Yeah, I think something like 28-24 Ole Miss or 27-24, something in that range seems like a pretty...
Well, and these two teams played a really tight game in Tiger Stadium last year. I believe it went to overtime. And Ole Miss needed it bad, and LSU beat them. It was one of the reasons that Ole Miss didn't make the playoff. So there is a revenge factor here too.
The game's on the road.
Yep. So I will also take Ole Miss to cover the 2.5.
Love that about you.
Wow. We are very much in agreement on a lot of these.
Yeah.
So
now I can't even prove. So like I've already, like I haven't finished yet. So now I can't prove that I didn't cheat off you anymore.
Well, we are different on a couple.
Okay.
We're different on a couple, but
also it's not in my best interest to have the same picks as you.
It's not. I mean, we could all just kind of move along in the same general direction, but both of our records will just go the way we go. I'm excited about this one though, because this is one of those, like, it's not the biggest game of the day, at least on paper, because you have Oregon-Penn State, you have Alabama, Georgia. This might be the one we end up talking about though at the end of the night.
Yeah, I think we will be talking quite a bit about this, because regardless of the result, you have a 5-0 team with either 2-0 or 3-0 in the SEC, and that's going to be a being unbeaten in that conference is going to start to become rarer and rarer as we go on. So I cannot wait for this game, and it's probably one of the ones that isn't going to get a lot of attention, as we have some pretty big ones in the evening.
Yeah, and the thing though, it could have a serious effect on the SEC race and the playoff race, and I think that is
not good. Will
and did last year.
Yeah,
so I think don't discount that part of it. But yeah, like Ari said, I think the defenses here are the ones that will probably have the biggest say in the game. Ari, we now move to another SEC game that is also kind of playoff adjacent, expectations, what we thought teams were coming into the season versus what they are. You got a back against the wall team. You got a team that had a great game and a great win. Now we want to see if they can do it again. It is Auburn at Texas A&M. So Auburn is coming off this loss in Norman that they were in the game. They were winning the game in the fourth quarter. Then they give up a drive. Jackson Arnold gets sacked in the end zone. Might have been a little bit of a bad beat there, but
felt good.
Not that I'm bitter. Not that I'm bitter.
You gamble enough, you're on the right side and the wrong side of those quite a bit, Andy. And I just got to let you know that you never remember when you win on them. You only remember when you lose on them.
That's true. That's true. Now, Texas A&M, the last time we saw them against an opponent of note, they went to South Bend and won a game that the Aggies don't typically win. And it was a big deal. And we came away from that thinking that, oh my, this offense is really, really good. That Marcel Reed with Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion, the two receivers they got out of the portal, that this could be a really potent offense for the rest of the season. And I think we both said we think they're going to score in the 30s in a lot of their games. And I'm very curious to see what that looks like against what I think is a pretty good Auburn defense. Now, John Mateer didn't put up huge numbers, but was mobile enough to keep from getting sacked, which I think, probably saved Oklahoma in that game because his mobility versus Jackson Arnold, who is pretty athletic, but just could not get away from Oklahoma's defense. I think that was the biggest difference in the game. I am curious to see if Texas A&M can score like that on Auburn. I'm not sure if they can.
Yeah, and I love the in-depth football discussion we're having, but there's a more important pressing discussion that we need to have about this game. Can Texas A&M have anything?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like that's the discussion here, man. Like we're talking about all these here's the thing. I'm looking back at the box score from Texas A&M's 41-40 win over Notre Dame. And Jeremiah Love carried the ball 23 times and did not score or did not reach 100 yards.
Right.
Which I think is a very good sign for A&M because the one thing that we know about Auburn is that they are going to rely on moving the football on the ground. And as you pointed out astutely on the show on Saturday night, the reason why they had a chance to beat Oklahoma was their unwillingness to shy away from that.
Yeah, they kept running the ball.
Coaching.
Yeah.
So my thing is if Notre Dame were to have shred Texas A&M more on the ground, I know they scored 40 points, but if they would have done more damage on the ground and been harder to stop on the ground, I would feel less confident in A&M's ability to cover the spread.
Because Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price is about as good a 1-2 punch as you're going to see in the country.
Right.
At tailback.
And, that Auburn runs the ball well, but they're not as good as a running team as Notre Dame.
Yeah. Now, here's the difference, though. Another key difference in the Auburn-Oklahoma game. If Jackson Arnold hits Cam Coleman on either of those deep shots where Cam Coleman was wide open that Arnold overthrew him, Auburn wins. So I would assume that they're going to keep doing that. And look, CJ Carr had success throwing the ball against Texas A&M. Cam Coleman is one of the toughest receivers in the country to cover. If Auburn sees him in single coverage, they are probably going deep. Yeah. And so you're going to get more opportunities like that. And if Jackson Arnold and him can get on the same page there, then this is a big problem for everybody.
The thing that I can't get out of my head is when they beat LSU last year, A&M this is, 38-23, and what, LSU did not have an answer for
Marcel
Reed in that game. The following week, A&M went on the road to South Carolina and lost 44-20.
Yeah.
And it was such a range of emotion because they did lose to Notre Dame in week 1, but at that point, when they beat LSU, they improved to 7-1. And then you're starting to think, okay, well, maybe they will get out of the vortex of 8-4, and they finished 8-4. And then ultimately 8-5 when they lost to USC in the Vegas Bowl. Right now, I am on the apex, and I believe that I think, because I've got a cult Aggie wife, that A&M is breaking through under Mike Elko. I think Mike Elko was the perfect hire for them, and I just truly believe, and maybe this is just me looking like an idiot, that A&M is about to turn the corner as a program. And I don't know if that means that they're going to make the playoff this year or that they're not going to. I just don't think they're going to go 8-4. And I think on Saturday is the day at home where the old Aggies would have just tripped over themselves because they can't have anything nice. They're actually going to do it. I think I like taking the points here. I don't think that Auburn is going to win this football game.
I think that's fair. I think it's fair. I think it's going to be so close that either team can win it, which is why I'm going to take the points.
Okay.
That's why I'm going to take Auburn to cover this, because you're giving me almost a touchdown. I don't feel like these teams are really a touchdown apart either way.
Yeah, I'm going to take A&M actually, just because.
Oh, now you want to be different.
No, I don't. No.
Oh, this is currying favor with the bride?
Britt doesn't care. I don't think that's on the priority list for her. But she did watch the end of the Notre Dame game. She told me she was out with some friends, because the best thing about being my wife in football season is that if you want to go have girls' night or do things or go to dinner on Saturday nights, you have a built-in babysitter on the weekends that I'm home, because I can't go anywhere, and I can watch our daughter. And she went out with some friends for one of her girlfriend's birthday parties, and they were walking out of the bar when the final drive of the A&M Notre Dame game was happening.
Yep.
And she said she took a later Uber because she wanted to watch the end of the game.
Did she say whoop? Did she do any yell?
And I didn't know
stuff?
I didn't know that you had to have graduated from A&M for that not to be disrespectful. Just so you know that.
You're not allowed to whoop. I can't whoop.
I told her,
can I gig them?
I don't know what you can do. All I know is you can't whoop. But she watched the game and she was like, "That was really exciting." I was like, "Yes, sweetheart, that was really exciting." Back to the game, though. I think that A&M is going to be up 5 with about a minute and a half left. And Auburn's
just don't take a safety. Don't do it again.
I think it's going to be a close game, Andy. I have a really hard time with this because the number and the power ratings are dead on. I'm going to take A&M, and this is the official turn the page on the program moment. I wonder if last week's game against Notre Dame is the line of demarcation of when the old A&M dies and the new A&M is born.
We shall find out, but I got to tell you this.
And I'm sorry to all my A&M friends who are just punching their steering wheel listening to this.
When number 8 is single covered, they're going deep.
Yeah, throw him the ball.
If Jackson can hit him, it's going to be a problem. Ari, it's time. Can you hear him? Can you? The whiteout. Oregon at Penn State. Penn State is a 3.5-point favorite at home. Thank God this game's not at noon.
Yeah, 3.5. That hook there is a little. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I put Penn State number 1 in the offseason. I like the makeup of their team. Both of these teams have played nobody. Oregon has had
Oregon tried to play somebody, and the somebody's chose not to be somebody this year.
It dropped 70 whatever points on Oklahoma
69.
State. I don't know if that counts.
It's nice.
Nice. Penn State. I have no clue about Penn State, and I think that this discussion will always get dragged into the pits of hell about the James Franklin statement era.
Oh, but hey, Oregon. The AP voters did us a favor this year. This time, Oregon is ranked number 6.
Yes,
this does not count in the James Franklin versus top 5 teams discussion, even though it really does. Let's be real. Oregon is that type of team.
Yeah,
absolutely that type of team.
And we actually thought about going to this game, but the fact that there's so much happening, it just would have been too much to not be home. We are going to find out a lot about both teams. Obviously, that's not some sort of revelatory, profound statement. But I really do want to know, as we go from Texas A&M to this pick, Andy, whether or not another program can turn the page. And I think that Penn State has been on a pretty exciting page for quite a long time. And they have been stuck in this purgatory a little bit of facing elite level teams and not being able to beat them. Oregon is very, very good. Penn State doesn't have to win this game in order to change their narrative. They got plenty of opportunities later on in the year. They're playing Ohio State. It's like if it's not now for Penn State, when? Like, that's kind of where I'm at with this. And that said, give me 3.5 points, dude.
I had a feeling you'd say that, because Here's my thing about this.
At the hook, dude. It's hard. If it was 3, I might.
I now am looking at this game differently for Penn State after watching Indiana, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Because Indiana does not seem like this is an automatic win for Penn State. Indiana looks just as tough maybe as Oregon or Ohio State for Penn State. So we said all along, and we've said this since the 12-team playoff became a thing, that if Penn State just goes 10-2. So you look at it, okay, in this particular season, you look at the schedule and you go, okay, they can lose to Oregon, Ohio State, doesn't matter, still make the playoff. I am not sure that's the case. I don't know if they can do that because I don't know if they're going to beat Indiana. So I think they got to win one of these two against Oregon or Ohio State. This one's the one at home. I think they got to win this one.
I think that you're mistaking with this line of thinking. I think they can now lose to Ohio State and Oregon, and then beating Indiana will give them enough credit.
But they have to beat Indiana, Ari. If they can't beat Oregon and Ohio State, they might not be able to beat Indiana.
The only thing I'm saying is that if they lose to Ohio State and Oregon, beat Indiana, make the playoff, and then lose early in the playoff, nothing is different from last year. But even though Indiana is a very good football
team. I'm just not going to assume that they're going to roll over Indiana.
No, and I don't want to.
If Penn State is the team it was last year, that Indiana team will beat them.
Yep.
So this is the challenge to you, Drew Aller, and to the Penn State receivers. You have to show up in some of these games.
I mean,
you have to show up.
Statistical, unbelievable situation for the amount of opportunities that Penn State has had in games like this that they have lost. Eventually they're going to have to win one, right? They're just from statistics standpoint,
you would think
it's at a certain point the roulette wheel is going to land on green, right? Just when is it going to happen for Penn State? I think that it's certainly possible that it happens on Saturday.
Let's look at these numbers here.
Okay.
Let's look at their Trevor Pena, Kyron Hudson, Devontae Ross. Those are the receivers that they got out of the portal. Luke Reynolds is the tight end who nobody's going to replace Tyler Warren, but Luke Reynolds is actually probably pretty close. He's going to do a good job. So Trevor Pena, 13 catches, 12.8 yards per catch average. Kyron Hudson, 14 catches, 11.1 yards per catch. Devontae Ross, only 5 catches so far, but averaging 15.4. Ari, this is not a dynamic, explosive passing offense.
No.
How are they supposed to beat Oregon?
And it hasn't been yet. Now, the question is, how do they beat Oregon? Is they get them into a Penn State mucked up whiteout game that's 16-13 with 8 minutes left and, win 20-17 or something. I don't know if that's mathematically possible, but you get what I'm saying. Penn State, the one thing that you have to acknowledge about Penn State,
mm-hmm.
and I know that this is, the Ohio State rivalry isn't necessarily transferable to other teams, but Penn State has done a tremendous job in mucking up games against very good teams. They do a very good job against Ohio State traditionally in making games that should be,
right. But they didn't. It's interesting because they did play Oregon last year and did not muck it up. They got roped into an Oregon game
and played quite well.
Actually played fairly well. Now it's interesting because Aller's stats were not super efficient, but he had some good throws.
I think he had the best throws of his career in that game.
Yeah. Now, the other guy who blew up in that game was Kenyon Sadiq, the Oregon tight end, who I think he had 2 touchdowns in that game. He is the biggest freak on the field in this game.
Yep.
And he's already got 3 touchdown catches this season. I am very interested to see what he does because against this Penn State defense, you can't do the traditional things. They will take that away from you.
Yeah.
But if you have someone who is a freak of nature who can do things that nobody else can do, that's who you want to.
Yeah, they hand the ball off to him on 4th down sometimes, don't they?
Oh yeah,
he's just kind of a Swiss Army knife.
He's everything. Yeah. He can do everything.
Is that the new Tyler Warren is on the other team now? I don't know.
Correct. Or more of a Brock Bowers situation, I think.
Yeah. But we interviewed him at Big Ten Media Day. He's a big kid. And people are like, I can't believe that somebody that big could be the fastest player on our team.
Right. And he may actually be the fastest player on Oregon's team, which is amazing. So that's the one I would watch for. And again, he had success against last year's version of the Penn State defense, which is very good. And this one's also extremely good. So I don't know. You're taking the 3.5, Ari, because you feel like Oregon's going to be that close. Give me Oregon money line.
Okay. You get a loss if they lose, though. So
I know. Give me the Oregon money line. I feel confident.
I think it's a coin flip game. I don't know who the better team is, and I'll take 3.5 because that's what it is. If Penn State wins, I think they're certainly capable of doing so. I don't think that I would be stunned by it, but I think at a certain point, you just got to do it. So go do it, Penn State. It's kind of like the same thing that we were talking about with Nebraska. It's like, all the reasons why you can win are, wonderful. Now just go do it,
So Oregon money line is plus 135 right now.
Yeah.
And I'll be curious to see if this moves a little bit because this has moved half a point, I think, since it opened, or maybe even a point since it opened toward Penn State. But does it move back as the week goes on? Because I think you're right. I think the way Penn State wins this game is muck it up, drag Oregon into hell, make them play a 3 yards in a cloud of dust kind of game. But I just think Oregon's the more explosive offense.
Yep.
And I think the more explosive offense always has a chance.
Yep.
So
yeah,
we shall see. But whiteout, in-state college.
So I'm rooting for a Penn State win by 3 because that means I win and you lose.
That's right. And we have to figure out the bonus structure for the money lines. We've had a couple of those.
Yeah.
You've won one. I've won one already. I think I
lost.
You lost.
I had Tennessee money line against.
Yeah, I had Miami money line against Notre Dame. That's the one I had in week 1 because it was like 2.5 points. It didn't even seem like I needed to mess with the spread. One more game, Ari.
Marathon episode.
Coming
to an end. Coming to an end with a bang here.
Alabama at Georgia. Sanford Stadium between the hedges Saturday night. Georgia is a 3-point favorite at home. The total is 53.5. Ari, we've talked about this game quite a bit. Are we worried about Alabama conversation that we had after Florida State? I said even after that, like in that moment, I said, I'm not worried about them against Georgia. They'll show up against Georgia. I'm worried about them against Vanderbilt and Missouri. They're going to show up against Georgia.
Yeah.
The Alabama we saw against Louisiana Monroe, the Alabama we saw against Wisconsin, we will see them against Georgia. The question is that good enough to beat Georgia, or can Georgia beat that version of Alabama?
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I'll put my hands up here. I am very unsure of what to make of Alabama so far this year. I think that it's possible that they didn't show up to Tallahassee with the right attitude and they got smacked in the mouth by a really good team. I don't know how much I think that their season is cooked as a result of it. And, it felt more dire, obviously, 3 weeks ago when that happened than it does right now.
Oh, the spread, by the way, since I typed it and we started this, it is now Georgia 3.5, Georgia minus 3.5.
Yeah.
So
that's a pretty big difference. I think that Ty Simpson's playing with a lot of confidence. I think that Georgia, although they had a open week here, is coming off a dramatic win. I am very much in the category of the SEC is going to have like 4 teams with 3 losses in November, and we're going to have to decipher through that crap again. And I think the way that we get to that point is by Alabama winning this. I feel like I knew I was going to take Alabama plus 3.5. It was opened at 4.5. It moved down to 3. Now it's moving back the other direction. I knew I was going to take it as long as it was not less than a field goal. I think this is going to be a typical Georgia-Alabama SEC dogfight, and I don't think that either team is going to be running away with this one.
Georgia-Alabama games have been weird.
Mm-hmm.
Last year's was weird.
Very weird.
Alabama takes a 28-0 lead. Georgia comes back. Alabama then comes back again, and with the incredible throw to Ryan Williams from Jalen Milroe. What we saw from Gunnar Stockton in Knoxville gives me a lot of confidence in him, but a lot less confidence in Georgia's defense, if that makes sense, because Tennessee's offense, which has not been traditionally successful against Georgia's defense, was very successful. But I was very impressed with Gunnar Stockton coming through in crunch time, did not seem fazed by anything that was going on in Knoxville. It was a very tough road environment. Now we find out about Ty Simpson in a tough road environment. And I know what you're going to say, but Andy, he's already lost in a tough road environment. He went to Tallahassee and lost. I didn't really think Ty Simpson was the issue for Alabama in Tallahassee. I thought he played fine, but everything was off that day. We're going to find out about Ty Simpson in this game. We're going to find out how he handles that raucous road environment that Gunnar Stockton handled at Neyland Stadium. Ty Simpson is going to get the same treatment at Sanford Stadium, and he's going to be playing against a very good defense that, while athletic, good, full of NFL players, is not perfect, has flaws, was exposed by Tennessee.
Where were they specifically exposed?
Over the top.
Who's on Alabama's team again?
Ryan Williams.
What's he good at?
Going over the top.
I wonder if that's going to show up at all.
Think it might.
Although, if those warts are exposed and Ryan Williams is coming into your building, you probably fixate 2 consecutive weeks straight on making sure he doesn't get behind you. But like that might be he was the difference last year. That could be the difference again. I think that there are going to be some explosive plays in this game. I don't think that we're going to be getting any of the vintage 6-3, 9-6.
No. That's not happening here.
Both teams are going to be scoring some points. I again don't think that either team's season comes to an end by losing this game, but Alabama certainly needs this game far more than Georgia.
Yeah, if Alabama takes loss number 2, it does put them really behind the 8 ball with a very difficult schedule left to play. Georgia lost this game last year, still went on to win the SEC. But again, this being at Sanford Stadium, this is the most exciting home schedule Georgia's had in decades. And this is a game that Georgia fans have had circled forever.
Been inside Sanford Stadium, never seen a game there.
Oh, it's a fantastic place to see a game. It's basically, so the lower bowl is dug into the ground. All you see from street level is the upper deck. And it gets so loud because you are down inside. You're basically underground. And it's an awesome atmosphere. It's one of the best atmospheres in college football. I cannot wait for this game because it is going to be, we're going to be at our various spots, and we'll have one TV on this game and one TV on Oregon-Penn State, and we're going to get to see 2 very different
Which
looks.
one gets the iPad? Which one gets the TV?
I might buy another TV. I might buy another TV.
Do you struggle with that every week? And so here's what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if this is good or bad, but when there are 2 games on that I'm very much interested in at the same time, I put the iPad in front of me and I give the iPad the volume.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put the other game that I'm more interested in watching, the big TV, but it's not as loud, so that I feel like that evens it out a little bit.
I actually did that in the hotel the other night.
Yeah.
When I was in a hotel going to cover Auburn, Oklahoma the next day, and it was the Friday night. So I had Tulsa, Oklahoma State on the iPad with the volume up, just like you said, and I had Iowa Rutgers on the TV. Now, these 2 games, very different than Tulsa, Oklahoma State and Iowa Rutgers. I do think maybe I do need to go buy another TV just to give them both.
I have a buddy who
a place of honor.
Has a setup where he has a guest room, man room, and it's just no bigger than like a normal bedroom sized. You put a couch against the wall, and he had 4 TVs mounted.
Well, let me ask you this.
And they're all like perfectly measured and stuff, and it's
let me ask you this. And I realize that our Penn State Oregon video is going to be a separate, so people who watch the whole show will have seen both of these, but people who are just watching the Alabama Georgia video are only going to see this video. But I want to ask you this question. Which would you be more scared of as the opposing quarterback? Penn State whiteout or the Georgia home game that they've been the most excited about since, the last 10 years?
When I first went on your podcast 5 years ago at The Athletic, my frame of reference has been, or was at the time, that the Penn State whiteout is the most intimidating, loud, visually beautiful environment in college football. And in the time since, we have gone to some pretty big games. But I have not seen an environment that matches what Penn State brings to the table anywhere.
I think this one comes pretty close.
And I've never been, so I can't. And I've heard that Death Valley and Tiger Stadium down at LSU is better. Yeah. But I also think that there's a certain psychological element to the visually imposing nature of.
I don't know. You got people in spiked shoulder pads in this one.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying, from a macro level.
Oh yeah.
When you were on the field and you're looking up at it, it's far more.
And the one thing Penn State does is they do have the one end zone that has a student section that is even more intimidating, just because
it looks like there's 30,000 people in it.
But I'm telling you right now, what Ty Simpson's going to walk into at Sanford Stadium.
But there's a combination
is a absolute cacophony.
Yeah,
I just like saying that
word.
And
also, it's not just what's intimidating from a crowd noise standpoint, visual standpoint. It's also the team you're playing.
Yes.
And I wonder if Georgia is better than Penn State this year. I think there's some question to that. So,
that's probably a question to be settled in the playoff. The question is getting to the playoff, and I don't think Georgia has to win this game to get to the playoff. Like we said last year, they lost to Alabama and Tuscaloosa. They still made the playoff. Let's talk about the Kirby Smart of it all. He's 1-6 against Alabama. Does that bother you at all? No, it doesn't bother me either. It's not against Nick Saban this time. As he's 0-1 against Kalen DeBoer, and he spotted Kalen DeBoer a 28-point lead and still almost won the game.
Yeah.
So I'm not really worried about that. I'm not.
Also, half those losses were before Georgia became the final product of what they were under.
Right.
So it's like I've never been a big trends. What happened in 2017 matters now kind of guy.
Yeah.
And playing a top number one. Now, how many of those games was Alabama number one in? Probably more than half of them, right?
Right.
So I don't know how much I take it into account, but I do wonder, if Kalen DeBoer can illustrate the ability to beat Kirby Smart 2 years in a row, that changes the calculus on how maybe Bama fans view him.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
absolutely. And look, there is a possibility. I don't think this is going to happen. I think this is going to be a close game no matter what. If Georgia does beat up on Alabama, we'll be having a very different conversation about Kalen DeBoer next week too. So there's a lot of potential possibilities here, but I think the most likely possibility is a very close game that turns on somebody making a mistake or somebody making a huge play, like, for example, the throw Gunnar Stockton made to London Humphrey in Neyland Stadium, or, maybe it's Ty Simpson to Ryan Williams this time. We'll find out. Ari, what is your pick in this game?
Alabama plus 3.5. I'll take the points.
I will take the Bulldogs to cover. I took them against Tennessee, lost by the hook, but my logic stands. I think Georgia's still Georgia, even if they're not the perfect Georgia that they used to be.
You know what this Saturday reminds me of? Like a wedding food lineup where it's like a wedding that has really good hors d'oeuvres, where it's like there are times where you're like you're at a wedding and you're all excited about the reception and dancing and getting hammered with your friends and all that stuff, and you go all day, and then by the end of the night, it's possible, like when all things settle, that the hors d'oeuvres were better than the dinner. I don't know.
Dinner's going to be pretty awesome. Dinner's
going to be really, really awesome. But this Saturday has some pretty good hors d'oeuvres. So these games at night might have some fireworks to live up to by the time this whole day is, said and done. So I cannot wait to get to Saturday, and I know you can too. And it's going to be a banger of a day.
Let's go. And of course, we will be breaking it down all week long. Shows every day, 3 p.m. Eastern time on the On3 Sports YouTube channel. So subscribe to On3. Don't forget, because you get things like, Chris Lowe breaking all of the SEC annual opponents. He did that Monday morning. If you want to watch that video, that's also on the On3 Sports YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching. We will talk to you on Tuesday.